The Medbed extraterrestrial connection. In the year 2001, 21 military and intelligence witnesses stated before the mainstream media of the world at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., that they were willing to testify under oath before a congressional hearing regarding the extraterrestrial presence and the suppression of advanced technologies. I was one of those top-secret military witnesses that testified that day. What brought about this disclosure event? Our legal government being denied access, starting in 1955. In 1955, President Eisenhower lost control to the Nazi extraterrestrial alliance and had to negotiate a surrender agreement at Holloman Air Force Base. From this point forward, our legal constitutional government will be denied access. 1958. President Eisenhower was told by the MJ-12 group that he had no longer jurisdiction now over the operations at Area 51 and was denied access. And he told the CIA operative, quote, "I want you and your boss to fly out there, and I want you to give him a personal message, to tell him whoever is in charge, they have this coming week to get into Washington and report to me. And if they don't, I'm going to get the 1st Army from Colorado, and we're going to go over and take the base over. I don't care what kind of classified material you got. We're going to rip this thing apart," unquote. In 1960, considering the JFK files revealed that Adolf Hitler was alive and well in Argentina at this time, President Eisenhower makes a special trip to Bariloche, Argentina, which is the known Nazi hideout of Adolf Hitler. Did Eisenhower travel there simply for fostering relations with the Argentine president? Or could this be a cover story for Eisenhower having a secret meeting with Hitler? In President Eisenhower's farewell address, he attempted to warn the public to take nothing for granted, that only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry could protect our future from the unwarranted influences and misplaced powers that had infiltrated within the military-industrial complex. In 1963, President Kennedy is denied access. President John F. Kennedy attempts to gain access to the UFO files by sending a top-secret memo to the CIA director. This triggers an MJ-12 directive by Allen Dulles, and 10 days later he's assassinated. The handwritten note 2 days before JFK's assassination says, "Angleton has MJ directive," referring to James Jesus Angleton, who worked directly under Dulles. A recovered and authenticated MJ-12 document revealed that Allen Dulles, MJ-1, had set up an assassination directive to be used against John F. Kennedy. The Warren Commission on the assassination of President Kennedy was headed by none other than Allen Dulles and made up of mostly 33rd-degree Freemasons who concluded that there was no conspiracy and it was only a lone gunman. Afterward, a lot of the public was questioning the conclusions of the Warren report. In response, the CIA sent out a secret PSYOPs dispatch to all its agents to label anyone who challenged the official narrative as a, quote, "conspiracy theorist," to discredit them. 1977, President Carter is denied access. President Carter had a UFO experience and filed a UFO report and made it his campaign promise to release the UFO files. Attorney Daniel Sheehan, testifying at the National Press Club, stated that President Carter was denied access to the UFO files by CIA Director George Bush Sr. President Clinton was denied access. President Clinton had an interest in the UFO topic, but was denied access. Famed White House correspondent Sarah McClendon inquired why he hasn't disclosed the UFO matter, whereas President Clinton responded saying, quote, "Sarah, there's a secret government in the government, and I don't control it." President Clinton had his CIA director, James Woolsey, attempt to look into it. But the CIA director was also denied access through his military and intelligence channels, so he brought in a civilian, Dr. Stephen Greer, who was the director for the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, into a 3-hour meeting where he stated to Dr. Greer, quote, "I know this is real. I'm trying to find out why the hell I can't gain access to it." Dr. Greer, becoming aware that the CIA director is being denied access, he met with some military advisors who advised him to start collecting witnesses. That same year, 1993, a meeting outside of Area 51 under a military tent takes place. For a first-time meeting with scientist Bob Lazar with a small group of researchers. No recordings of this event was allowed, and I was sitting in the front row, and I felt it just too important not to candidly video document the 2-hour meeting with this group of researchers, asking him many questions. Over the decades that followed, Bob Lazar's testimony has remained 100% consistent to his credibility. The Area 51 base took quite seriously these meetings outside the base, and the entire base went into a lockdown condition. And they issued a NRO, that's a National Reconnaissance Office, special security advisory document to all base personnel. On this document's distribution list, it listed operations such as Cosmic Ops and Magi Ops. These were unacknowledged special access programs such as reverse engineering operations of the extraterrestrial craft that Bob Lazar was working on. Dr. Greer somehow acquires this NRO document showing these unacknowledged special access programs and brings it to a Pentagon meeting with the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson. The head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Wilson, is also denied access, as he attempts to look into these unacknowledged special access programs, whereas he's not only denied access, but he is threatened to drop the matter immediately, or he'll see an early retirement and lose rank. The admiral in his high level of constitutional authority is mad as hell, as you can imagine, and he told Dr. Greer that if he can bring his witnesses that he's been collecting since 1993 that are willing to testify under oath that he has his permission to expose these illegal operations to the mainstream media of the world. So, in 2001, Dr. Greer courageously brings 21 witnesses before the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., in front of the mainstream media of the world, despite threats to his life not to proceed. Each witness stated in front of the 22 cameras of the mainstream media of the world that they were willing to testify under oath before a congressional hearing. Dr. Greer had accumulated since 1993 over 500 military intelligence witnesses to back these 21 witnesses. Some of what was disclosed on May 9, 2001. That our legal constitutional government is being denied access, including presidents, CIA directors, and heads of intelligence. That there is no legal oversight to these rogue, unacknowledged special access programs taking in many billions of dollars, and that we have the scientists within the special access programs that can prove before an open congressional hearing that we have zero-point energy technologies that could end the energy and environmental crisis, and that we haven't needed nuclear, oil, and coal for decades. Before we went to the moon, a lunar base on the far side of the moon was visually witnessed at an NSA facility by the lunar orbiter. That the astronauts saw extraterrestrial craft on the moon and were sworn to secrecy about what happened when they landed in 1969. William Tompkins observing the live, uncensored feed from the moon that showed huge reptilian spacecraft lined up on the far side of the crater edge that warned us off the moon. Although NASA censored the transmission from Neil Armstrong, some amateur radio operators on Earth were able to hear the censored transmission by bypassing NASA and pointing their highly directional antennas at the moon, where they heard NASA saying, "What's there? Mission Control calling Apollo 11," with Neil Armstrong responding saying, quote, "These babies are huge, sir, enormous. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there's other spacecraft out there lined up on the far side of the crater edge. They're on the moon watching us," unquote. I know personally a fellow amateur radio operator who heard this transmission. 20-year NASA employee testified that NASA's airbrushing the UFO images out of the photos before they released them to the public. 57 different extraterrestrial species as of 1989 had been cataloged according to a retrieval team member. A red glowing extraterrestrial disc-shaped craft had shut down multiple nuclear weapons at missile launch facilities at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. U.S. Navy ships reporting disc-shaped craft coming out of the ocean in secret reports. This was my testimony. Wernher von Braun disclosed in his deathbed testimony that a series of false flag scenarios had been pre-planned. The next event was terrorists, which actually happened as predicted 4 months later on 9/11, with the final planned event to be a false flag alien invasion. Alien reproduction vehicles built back in the 1950s that could go faster than the speed of light were witnessed in 1988 at Norton Air Force Base. And much more. What was the result of this public disclosure? This was one of the largest events in the history of the National Press Club. The place was packed with news reporters, with 22 cameras of the mainstream media on the back row. Myself, being an ex-ABC newsman, I thought, how could this not be a world-changing event with these explosive testimonies? All of the mainstream media that covered the event did in lockstep together what the intelligence communities term a, quote, limited hangout. They purposely omitted the explosive testimonies revealing of these illegal operations that Vice Admiral Wilson wanted disclosed to the public. Instead, the mainstream media reporting made it sound as though the only purpose for this event was to have a congressional hearing simply on the reality of UFOs. This event inspired a computer hacker, Gary McKinnon, to learn the truth for himself. He discovered evidence in the NASA computer systems revealing the U.S. Navy's Solar Warden secret space program, with an image of a huge cigar-shaped craft with the ship names of USSS Hillenkotter and LeMay. Both of these names are names of former MJ-12 members. He saw a list of fleet-to-fleet transfers and non-terrestrial officers, and was also able to confirm witness Donna Hare's testimony of evidence of NASA image manipulations. The U.S. Navy Solar Warden Secret Space Program. The Solar Warden 20 and Back program utilized time and age regression technology to recruit personnel for a 20-year tour of duty in space, and then time and age regress them back to their point of enlistment and erase their memories. Then, after 20 years passes on this timeline, many are starting to have total recall of their service in space. For many years, I've been researching the testimonies of those who claim to be involved in these various secret space programs. There are first-hand witness testimonies of those within the secret space programs that have been completely healed with these medbeds. Witnesses who I know personally that have experienced total healing in a medbed. Elena Danaan. Due to consent that was given by MJ-12 with a treaty with the Orion Greys to abduct the people of our planet, Elena was abducted as a child and then rescued by the Galactic Federation of Worlds, which had to repurpose the tracking implant to be a communication device with the Federation. In the abduction process, they also placed 2 reptilian pouches in her uterus to receive eggs in the future. Later, they grew quite large. She was able to have one of them surgically removed, but not the other. With assistance, Elena was guided by a contact to go to a special experimental clinic facility in France in the year 2000, which had a medbed that used water and sound to cause the tumor to completely disintegrate from her body. Tony Rodriguez, forced into a suicide mission on Mars that was battling indigenous insectoids, where in the battle he lost both his whole arm and a foot. He was rushed to a medical facility on Mars, where he then regained consciousness. His body was whole once again, and he said he felt like, quote, $1 million. JP, a U.S. Army insider that has gone on multiple on- and off-planet secret space program operations, shared how he was taken to a secret U.S. Air Force Base facility where blood was taken, and he was put into a medbed that had a tube-shaped chamber that had a gel-like substance on both inside and outside its surface. JP felt the chamber activate different parts of his body where he felt he had suffered injuries. The different areas heated up as electrical charges surged through them, and he felt as though they were being healed. Afterward, JP felt much better. In fact, he said he felt like he was 20 years old again. Colonel Randy Kramer, a member of the U.S. Marine Corps Special Section, was assigned to the Mars Defense Force and was involved in off-world military operations on Moon and Mars. In off-world battles, he was regenerated by medbed technology numerous times in the loss of limbs. He said the medbeds working according to his understanding is they take a perfect read of the DNA code, then they use a holographic projecting lens to project that pattern over the damaged area. Through what he called, quote, dominant harmonic frequency resonance, unquote, the damaged area would morph into the healthy original blueprint of the body. Restoring a blown-off leg, for example, would require only a number of hours for full restoration. The following is a detailed audio description of the principles of how the holographic medbeds work by Andromedan contactee Alex Collier, describing in his own words what he was shown. I'm grateful for receiving permission from Alex for allowing me to share what you are about to hear.
The Medbeds is holographic technology. It's also color, light, and sound. This technology, this knowledge has been around since before Atlantis on this planet, and it has existed off-world for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of years, with other star nations and star-traveling pioneers. They understood a very, very long time ago that our bodies are holographic, that we are essentially made of color, light, and sound. And it wasn't until, 25, 30 years ago that we were able to scientifically prove that by looking at the body under an electron microscope. And what they did not see was physicality. What they saw was light. Essentially, what we're talking about here is healing the human body. Now, the holographic camera that the A's use, they call it a camera. What it does is it takes a picture of your body. And this picture, because it's holographic, is a picture of the present time when the picture is being taken, and it goes all the way back to conception. And what they do is they will go through these series of slides that are taken in this one picture, and what they will do is they will pull out the particular slides of where your body was the healthiest, whether it's kidneys, liver, muscle, knees, brain, heart, it doesn't matter. And what they will do is they will put those pictures together and create a new hologram. And then what they will do is they will overlay that holographic picture onto your physical body, literally healing it and renewing your body while you're there. And to them, it's simple because they understand. They have all the knowledge. Nothing's been suppressed for them, and they understand who we are and what we are. Here on Earth, however, and in other star systems that have been controlled and manipulated by the Orion group, we haven't had that education or that knowledge. But nonetheless, this technology is coming out. This technology has been created. It is in use, I'm sure, in Black projects. I am sure that it has been used on humanity. It should have been in use for quite some time now, but it hasn't been. It has been suppressed. When we find out the truth, we're going to go through several stages of emotional upset, disbelief, anger, and then resolve that this never happens again. With the Medbeds, living to at least 100 years old should be a snap. In fact, we should live well into the 200s, maybe going as far as 300 to 400 years or longer. We just simply don't know. It gives us an opportunity to not only live longer and to live healthier, but at the same time, we can use the wisdom we are acquiring now with all the disclosure and everything that's coming to light to make sure that we live longer so that we can lay down a real solid foundation for all these future generations yet to come. And the generations on this planet, as we pass the baton to them, we are sure they're ready for it, that we have not held back any knowledge, any information, We have not held back anything from them. And this would be the installment in the institution of the law of consistency, which every evolved star nation uses. We haven't. We have dumbed down future generations so that they would be malleable and controllable. This can no longer be allowed to occur. The frequency of the medbed creates energy patterns that accesses the DNA and organizes it. It says geometrically, but there's a lot more to it. You have to understand the body itself is a holograph. So is our DNA. How DNA even comes into existence is something everyone should understand. And the fact that when DNA moves and it transfers, it'll move from one place to another, but it goes into another dimension. It literally disappears from third density and reappears somewhere else in third density. That's who you are. That's who all of us are. The way it organizes, the DNA itself is an antenna, drawing frequencies and energies from the source, the quantum field. What you think is what you create. How you see yourself is who you become. Okay, home use. The medbeds at this particular time, and I don't know how many years that will be, they will not be for sale in the home. They are, however, going to be used at very specific locations. In the beginning of the rollout, they will be rolled out by the military. They will be training people on these particular medbeds. They will be training staff as things go along. They want to be sure that this is not used in a nefarious way or manner to harm humanity or humans or any life on this planet, because the medbeds will actually treat all living things. This, of course, will inspire people to, not only live longer, but to want to accomplish more things. Yes. This will, give everyone a breath of life so that they can go out and do the things they've always wanted to do. Whatever it is that people wanted to do, they will now be more inspired to do it, because, you don't have this short window to accomplish everything that you wanted to, and being poisoned by the atmosphere and everything else that was done intentionally. So because you have a longer life, you will be inspired to do more, to live more, to experience more. The timetable of treatments, maximum treatments needed. Now this says no more than 3 times. This is currently what it is. As the medbed technology continues to advance, that could change in the future. But as of right now, that's what it is. You can go to the medbed at least 3 times in a lifetime. But after that, apparently they say there's side effects. As of today, this is the maximum treatments allowed, but that, of course, can change, just so that you're aware of it. All treatments are going to be free, but they're going to be very, very specific and selective as to who they allow to manage and run and operate this technology, because there's no profit involved in this. So your motivation can't be the money. Your motivation has to be love and compassion for humanity, to want to see people healed. Okay, age regression. Age regression is something that the medbeds also do. They will take off at a minimum 20 years of your age. They will bring your body back to those original times, or your body back 20 years. It could be that it can take you even further back. The medbeds are said to be able to regrow organs. If you know someone who is on the list for a heart transplant, that may not be necessary anymore. It may very well be that they would be able to be in a position to get into the medbeds and they could regrow their heart. It can grow limbs. So we're looking at veterans who are amputees, children born without limbs, that are paraplegic, those who suffered from car accidents, virtually any reason, any experience that they've had where they have lost a limb. The medbeds are said to be able to grow limbs. So not only organs, but limbs. So an entire industry would be looking to go out of business, and that would be the prosthesis industry. because if you can grow organs then or limbs, then the only reason you would use one is you would wait, you would be using one until it was your turn to go in for your appointment to sit in the med bed and have all those things repaired for you. And that's a very, very exciting prospect for a lot of people, you know, especially veterans who have lost legs and other limbs, and you know, they want to be able to run and play with their children again, and just to feel whole after the tremendous sacrifice that they have made, you know, for all of us. Humanity is about to learn that we belong to this huge, huge galactic family, and we have been isolated apart from them by groups that have controlled the surface of the planet by hiding underneath it. They've held us back. They have dramatically held us back from not only our potential, but our true knowledge of who we truly are. And that's all coming to an end.
Understanding the holographic science of the universe through an extraterrestrial science transfer program. I had an unusual interaction that occurred in 1977 with an extraterrestrial. In 1977, I had a Kundalini opening experience and an interaction with a being. The being had an incredible amount of love emanating from its eyes and projected a sphere in space to convey telepathically the geometrical structure of the matrix in relationship to consciousness. Although this was totally new information to me, over the decades that followed, I found much of what the being conveyed to have many scientific indications as being valid to this day. Later, I learned that this being was an emether. This illustration is from Elena Danaan's book, A Gift from the Stars, where she details over 110 different extraterrestrial races that she actually visually saw in the Galactic Federation of Worlds database. I later learned about this being who initiated this contact was part of a science transfer program to our planet and was working with other cultures such as the Umaite and Solosi. I learned that this exchange was to prepare me with the science of the universe so that in the future I'd be able to understand the science that will be given to me to pass on to the people of Earth. This experience led me to ask the question, what is the geometrical nature of the matrix of reality and its interface with consciousness and its relationship with quartz crystals? This led me to seek out Dr. Marcel Vogel, who was IBM's senior scientist, a prolific inventor who had over 140 patents, who became involved with man-to-plant communications, which eventually led him into the opening of a laboratory to research quartz crystals and the interface with consciousness, and he invited me to be a research associate with him. Marcel Vogel wanted to form the crystal in a way that would more effectively cohere the energies of mind, and in a dream he received a vision of a dipyramidal form, similar to the formation of the Tree of Life pattern. I traveled to the crystal mines and delivered to him a huge batch of raw crystals that he was using to cut in his garage for over 24 medical doctors in the San Francisco Bay Area. Marcel had developed techniques and had trained many individuals and doctors to successfully use these techniques in their practice. Dr. Vogel started out cutting the crystal with 4 sides and then went on to experimenting by increasing the number of sides to vary the vortex spin within the crystal. Little did he know at that time that when the crystal is cut in perfect alignment with the natural lattice structure with specific termination angles, that would open up a very special effect within the crystal that is used by advanced extraterrestrial cultures. Dr. Marcel Vogel would have loved to have learned what I learned decades later as a continuation of the science transfer program to our planet of how the Palladians form their crystals to open a singularity vortex within the crystal which they use in their technology. In forming the crystal in this manner, it creates a singularity vortex within the crystal. The holographic field has a time vector which is tunable. This fact was substantiated in this project that I worked with Dr. Marcel Vogel. Although primitive in comparison to the extraterrestrial technology of the Medbeds, it nevertheless proved in the 1950s that the holographic field can be tuned through in time. This project that I worked on with Marcel was a holographic camera that could tune through time. It was patented in Paris, France in 1955, and thousands of photos were produced with it. Using a drop of blood from a pregnant mother who was 50 miles away, the camera was able to tune through the vector of time through the different stages of her pregnancy, from 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and 6 months levels of pregnancy. Here you can see the image of a flower remedy in a homeopathic pill. And using just the seed of a lily flower, the camera was able to tune into its future bulb and flowering cycles. This holographic camera, as is common in other such radionic or consciousness-assisted technologies, uses a fractal representative of the target to be attuned to, such as a sample of a drop of blood, hair, fingernail, or even a photograph of the person, can be attuned to their entire holographic field, regardless of time and space. A Nobel Prize nominee scientist in Russia was able to scientifically substantiate that a photograph holds the holographic DNA information at the time the photo was taken. Nobel Prize nominee in quantum genetics, Dr. Peter Garriev, proved that the DNA can resonate through time. Although he was in good health, he unexpectedly died before he could receive the Nobel Prize. Russian biophysicist Peter Garriev found that after removing DNA from a sample, the biophoton field retained the exact shape of the missing DNA for up to 40 days, like a holographic phantom imprint into the ethers. Dr. Peter Garriev said, quote, "We have experimentally proven that a genetic phantom of the structural configuration of DNA sends and receives information," unquote. The holographic storage of DNA in a photograph is a 2D hologram of the 3D biofield, which is reconstructible with coherent laser light. The DNA's liquid crystal structure polarizes light in unique patterns encoded in the photo, which is re-extracted by laser. Dr. Garriev's lab setup to reconstruct with laser and photomultiplier to pick up the reflected light spectra modulated by polarization changes in a holographic DNA pattern at a prior point in time to be recorded and stored. Research has shown that a healthy resonant holographic DNA template, when superimposed onto a dissonant template, the healthy template will dominate and cause it to morph into the healthy DNA template. Dr. Garriev performed multiple experiments using DNA wave transmission for biological regeneration by applying past holographic DNA information to the present DNA with the following procedure. In the recording phase, healthy DNA source material was laser scanned from newborn rats and recorded. In the transmission phase, the recorded morphogenic field pattern is amplified and sent using quantum non-locality modulation of the DNA pattern to interact with the so-called junk DNA in the non-coding regions representing 98% of the genome. In the imprinting phase, the target organism was the adult rats that were poisoned to induce type 1 diabetes, destroying their pancreas. The untreated control group of rats all died within 4 to 6 days. The group receiving the broadcast lived, and their stem cells were reprogrammed to fully regenerate their pancreas within weeks in 90% of the repeated tests, showing that the poisoned rat's DNA was mirroring that of the healthy DNA source from the young rat. Dr. Garriev proved that holographic DNA data held on the quantum level can be stored within a photograph. Our DNA is healthiest soon after birth at point A, with age deterioration of DNA occurring at point B. Through quantum resonance of your DNA at point A, The DNA deterioration process is no longer supported when it resonates with the original healthy DNA template from point A. Scanned childhood photos of patients with cancer, diabetes, or infertility were broadcast using these recorded younger DNA matrices daily on over 100 subjects. Remissions such as tumor shrinkage, fertility restoration, etc., were reported by these subjects. In the year 2022, as a further continuation of the science transfer program to our planet, I connected with Elena Danaan to discuss the science research of crystals of Dr. Marcel Vogel on our show. Elena is an emissary for the Galactic Federation of Worlds and has direct quantum communication via an implant with her contact, High Commander Jen Han Eredyon. I was graciously given authorization for communication contact with his younger brother, a Palladian scientist, Jen Han Eredyon, to understand their science in accordance with the Prime Directive. This science exchange has been ongoing to present day for more than 3 years now. I will summate a small portion of what I've learned related to the holographic medical science of the medbeds they use. Jen Han Eredyon explained to me how the medbeds function. Because of the nature of the universe to tend to evolve to perfection, when a resonant holographic template pattern is projected onto a dissonant version of that pattern, the holographic pattern will then automatically morph into the more resonant template version because, quote, the universe tends to perfection, unquote. As Jen Han explained, quote, some medbed technologies use fractal holographic technology. Let me explain. The fractal core formula of the tissue to repair is recorded, and then the perfect unaltered geometrical pattern is reconstructed and superimposed on the damaged pattern. The old pattern instinctively pairs and morphs into the new one, because the universe tends to perfection. It is a holographic fractal repairing. Sound frequency is used to tie in the new pattern to the old one. You remember how I explained earlier that holographic structures are constructed or either altered by frequency, unquote. Looking through time. Elena has physically gone off planet on several occasions. On December 16, 2022, Elena was on board a Meton ship where High Commander Haben allowed her to use a time-looking device to view 20 years into Earth's future, where she saw a beautiful future with advanced technologies, and he said the following to her, quote, all these technologies you saw existing 20 years from now are being produced now in this precise moment. Everything is real. Everything exists already. It's ready for when the people of Terra are ready, and a new leader will come, and the dark will vanish because the light will rise. All of the real leaders will rise all over the planet Earth as you call it. And it is now, very soon, the time when you stand up and the hand we held to you, you finally take it, and we are family, unquote. Medbeds on the moon. Later, in March of 2023, Elena witnessed thousands of medbeds derived from advanced extraterrestrial technology that have been manufactured in vast underground facilities on the moon. These have been made in preparation to be released to the people of Earth once our planet has reached a state of peace, becoming a unified planet, which is a prerequisite to joining other civilizations across the galaxy as members of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Once a member, we would then have access to these technologies. In March 2023, Elena was taken physically on Thorhan's scout ship to see the massive medbed factories inside of an underground moon base. Jen Han Eredyon shared with me why I may have an interest in the medbed technology. They have devices which can read a person's consciousness field, and it revealed to me that in the time of Atlantis, I was once a scientist in the capital city of Atla, and that one of my specialties was medical holographic science. Are medbeds a fact or are they fiction? The answer to this question, of course, you must ultimately decide. Consider our current science is indicative that The holographic DNA information that forms our bodies can be resonated and transformed from a dissonant, unhealthy pattern into a resonant, healthy pattern from an earlier point in time. I encourage everyone to do their own research and to consider the possibility that such advanced technology developed by extraterrestrial races working with us exists, which could replace our entire corrupted medical system and restore any living being to full health and greatly extend our average lifespans and end so much needless suffering on our planet. Just imagine how our world as we know it would be transformed. Just imagine. Thank you.